Hello and welcome back to Get Up and Game. My name is Josh, and in this video I'm going to be ranking all the heroes in Marvel Champions based on how much I enjoy playing them. It's been close to a year since I've done one of these, and there have been 10 new heroes since the last time I did it. And even though Gambit and Rogue are right around the corner, there's always somebody right around the corner, so there's really never a good time to do it, so I thought now would be fun. Now, since this is a ranking video, there are of course a few caveats. These are all my opinions, simply based on my own experience and preferences. I'm not ranking these by power level by any means. This is purely how much I enjoy playing them, how excited I am to get them out of the box, how often I play them, how frequently I'm inspired to build new decks for them. That's a big one for me. And just the overall general fun factor. I do have a strong solo bias, so keep that in mind. So some heroes might end up lower than you think they should just because maybe they work better in multiplayer, and I rarely get to do that. Now, since I like to do things differently every single time I rank something, for this video, the way I'm going to do it is, first, I'm going to rank every hero in the aspect that they came out in. So for example, I'll rank all the heroes that came with aggression cards in the order that I like them the most. And I'll go through each aspect, and then once we've ranked each hero in each aspect, then we'll take it that one step further and put them in a definitive order from last to first. To be clear, I'm not ranking them by how well I think they play in that aspect. That's just how I decided to split them up. And finally, since I'm grouping them by aspect, just to try to even things out, I've put Spider-Woman and Adam Warlock both in the Justice aspect, just because there are fewer Justice heroes than the rest of them. Alright, I think that's everything we need to know to get started, so let's jump in with ranking the aggression heroes. Alright, so starting out with my least favorite aggression hero, I don't think this will be an unpopular opinion. It is Valkyrie. Now, I know Valkyrie has her fans, and I'm certainly glad that she does, because I was really looking forward to her. And even before she came out, there were rumblings on the internet that she didn't play very well, that she was clunky. She felt like she just wasn't quite put together the way other heroes were. And you basically had to do a lot to get a little out of her. And when I finally got a hold of her, I found that to be how I felt about her as well. I love the idea of the Death Glow mechanic where you put the Death Glow upgrade onto a minion, and then when you defeat that minion, you're going to get various bonuses. Most notably, that's going to ready Valkyrie, but you might be able to trigger Flight of the Valkyrier to remove 5 threat, or exhaust Valhalla to heal her and draw a card. But that's pretty much all she's doing, and those bonuses really don't end up adding up to much. Now, if you play her in multiplayer, she can be a very efficient minion slayer, and she can do a good job of keeping the table clear. But since I am primarily a solo player, I find that just doesn't make for very interesting gameplay when playing by myself. I also find it very frustrating how difficult it can be to move the Death Glow around because there are no cards that help pay for it or that will move it from one enemy to another. So if you want to place it on the villain, because it is possible to get some bonuses for that, you have to be able to go to Alter Ego to take it off the villain. And this is going to be a common trend in my hero rankings. The heroes that need to go to Alter Ego frequently, but are particularly bad at thwarting, don't rank very high with me because I like to play solo, and that's a very difficult way to win in solo. So all in all, she was hugely disappointing to me. I was really looking forward to her. I wanted her to be really fun, even one of my favorite heroes, because I really like her theme. I really like that part of Marvel, the Thor stuff. So sadly for Valkyrie, she does come in last in my aggression ranking. Now, while Valkyrie might not have been a surprise to anyone, my next least favorite hero that came in aggression might be, and it's Gamora. Now, I know Gamora is very good. I know she is strong. I know she plays really well in solo, which means I should like her, but for some reason, whenever I play Gamora, I'm just kind of bored. I don't think she really does anything terribly exciting. Her abilities to remove a free threat or deal a free damage are very efficient and very helpful. But just for the way I like to play the game, I don't find them to be very fun. So I think you can win a lot of games with Gamora, but I'm not really having a good time while I do it. Some of her cards where you need to play a thwart event before you hit your attack event to do extra damage or vice versa, that can be cool, but because she's so event-based and has very little in the way of setup or card draw or anything that's going to help her pair things up in her hand, it really becomes just a very lucky thing whether or not you happen to get those cards together. And another thing that should make me like her is on her Alter Ego side, she has the ability to include 6 cards from other aspects that have the attack, thwart, or defense trait. But since there are usually some cards that are just obviously the best ones to take for her, that doesn't end up being all that interesting to me either. So I know Gamora's ranked pretty highly for a lot of people, but for whatever reason, she's just never clicked with me. And I have gotten her out recently and tried to see what I was missing. And I guess she's just not for me because I didn't really have a lot of fun with her that time either. So Gamora is going to come in pretty low on these rankings. The next one for me is going to be Iron Man. And here's another one that really confuses me because it feels like I should really like Iron Man. I absolutely love the upgrade style of building out a huge table of upgrades and triggering a bunch of different cards. But I think the thing I don't really enjoy about Iron Man is just that incredibly slow start. You have to stay in Alter Ego for at least the first turn, if not the first two. And I know you can do that in solo now, and I know that there are a ton of extra tech cards that you can be including, so you're likely to be able to put enough into play in the first couple turns that you'll be fine after that, but there's still a decent chance that you won't be able to do that, and then you start the game so far behind that it's really hard to catch up. And that could make for an interesting challenge, but the times I've done it, and I'll be honest, I haven't played Iron Man in a long time, but it's just because I haven't wanted to. So even though I've played Gamora more recently, in my mind I still feel like I like Iron Man better because I do like that upgrade style, and once you get going, or if you get to play him in a multiplayer where you have a little bit more of a chance to set up, I think he's way more fun to play than Gamora. But in solo, I'm still not very inspired to get him out very often just because it feels like he's really pigeonholed into one style of play. You've got to find as many tech cards as you can to put into his deck, so it doesn't really make for very interesting deck building. And in multiplayer, I imagine you have much more freedom of how you want to build him up, but in solo, it feels like you've really just got to pack him full of tech cards, and that doesn't give you a lot of options beyond that. So, not a huge fan of Iron Man. Getting a little bit better in aggression for me is the Hulk. Probably expected to have already seen him by now, but I am not a Hulk hater. I think he's pretty fun. I certainly recognize all the areas where he is very clunky and very limited, and I know that he is not the way maybe he was originally intended to be, but I still think you can have fun with the Hulk. I actually really like playing him in all four aspects. I probably enjoy him in aggression the least just because I'm less interested in the rush style, and I usually do prefer a build-out hero, and while that's usually a bad idea with the Hulk because he can't thwart, and he's very susceptible to things like exhaustion and stun, I still think there are interesting ways to build him that don't necessarily require him to just kill the villain as fast as he can, though that can be pretty fun once in a while too. So Hulk is one I'll get out every now and then, and I usually have a good time when I play him. But he's not my favorite Hulk in aggression. I guess that honor goes to She-Hulk, because I do think she is a little bit more fun to play than the Hulk. Her flipping back and forth style is really interesting to me, even though, and this is maybe a little unfair to Valkyrie, even though she is another one who isn't very good at thwarting and wants to go to Alter Ego frequently. At least she does have some ways to deal with that, where her ability in Alter Ego to prevent one of the threat that goes on can be helpful. And her thwarting cards aren't the best, but they can do a little bit of work. She has one of my absolute favorite cards in the whole game, Split Personality. It's so cool to have cards that let you flip down to Alter Ego and back and get to keep doing cool stuff. Being able to draw 6 cards in the middle of your turn just feels really powerful. I do wish her thwarting events were a little bit better, and her ground stomp isn't very exciting either, so I do think about half of her kit isn't particularly interesting, but the hero stuff she can do, her actual hero and Alter Ego abilities, I think are fun just to flip up and easily do 2 damage to somebody, and then flip down and prevent a threat. Those are fun to me for one reason or another, so I do enjoy playing She-Hulk from time to time. Now, my next favorite hero that came in aggression is probably going to be pretty low for some people, but it's going to be Wolverine, and it's not because I think he's bad in any way. I think he's maybe a little too good, and that's not going to jive very well with some of my other rankings because there are definitely some very powerful heroes that rank very highly for me, so that's not necessarily a thing I hold against somebody, but Wolverine just wins too fast. When playing in solo, you almost have to try not to win in 3 turns because he can just so easily bring the villain down with his damage. You know, being able to play Lunging Strike for basically free on the first turn and then do a basic attack and still have resources to do another attack. It's so easy to kill the first stage of the villain in the first turn, and then you're probably going to win on the next or the turn after. Now, I'm sure that doesn't happen every time, but the potential seems really likely, and that's just not how I personally enjoy playing the game. Now, I think I would enjoy Wolverine quite a bit more in multiplayer where the game is going to last longer because I think his gameplay is really fun. I like the idea of paying with your life to pay for cards. I think that's really fun. I really like his thwarting event. He has a lot of fun cards. The card that lets you draw cards every time you are attacked and take damage. He's got a lot of really good things going for him, and I was actually really looking forward to him. I was a little nervous though, because I figured he would probably win more quickly than I like, and that's exactly what happened. So I think Wolverine's a great hero, but he's not really for me and my play style. But if I get a chance to play him in multiplayer, I'm definitely going to take that chance because I think I could have a lot more fun with him that way. Next we have Thor. Thor is kind of an old favorite of mine. I've always really liked Thor, even when he came out and people seemed to be a little bit disappointed with him. He wasn't as strong as people thought he should be. I just really enjoy his gameplay. His ability to draw 2 cards whenever you're engaged with a minion, I just think it's such a blast because it's really fun when you're in the villain phase and you're actively hoping to flip a minion off the top of the encounter deck. It actually makes the encounter phase fun. So you get to draw those 2 cards and it just feels so good. And then when you're in hero form, you find ways like his Defender of the Nine Realms, or there's various other things you could do to engage yourself with a minion and draw 2 more cards. I really like drawing cards in this game. It's probably going to be a trend as we go through these hero rankings. And I think the way he does it is just a really fun way to play. I think he has cool cards. The hammer throw just feels really neat. You return the hammer to your hand and then just throw it through somebody for overkill. And then I like the little trick of going down to Alter Ego and then using the hammer as a resource to help pay for something, returning it to your hand with the Worthy ability, and then discarding it for another resource. And then next turn, you can return it to your hand again. Like, you can do some really cool things with him in Alter Ego, which, to be fair, is difficult in solo because he's not great at thwarting, but there are scenarios that you can make it work with. And I very much set myself up to have fun when I'm playing this game. So if I'm playing Thor, I'm going to play a scenario where I get to do the things that make it fun to play Thor. So he's going to be able to flip to Alter Ego as often as I need him to. Using his lightning strike to just rain down on a bunch of different enemies and the villain always feels really powerful. And I just think he's really fun to play. So Thor ranks decently high with me for aggression heroes. And now we're starting to get into the ones I really like. Starting with Rocket Raccoon, this is definitely one of my favorite heroes. You know, ranking them this way, going through each aspect one at a time, I think it's going to be kind of an interesting way to do it because you're going to start out low, work your way high, and then we get to do that 4 times. You know, the last time I ranked him, I just sort of went in release order, and it was just a real mishmash of up or down. I sort of like this upward arc of each aspect where it gets a little bit better each time. And I'm very excited every time I get to play Rocket. His ability to draw cards by dealing excess damage to enemies, again, it's just a really fun ability. There's a huge fun factor in that of looking for the best ways to deal just that 1 extra damage to somebody, even if that means you have to waste a damage from another source just to put them within range so that Rocket can draw the extra card. Trying to decide if that's worth it or not is really fun to do, and I pretty much always do it, even if it's not the smartest thing to do, just because it's usually the most fun. And then he gets to flip down and discard his upgrades to draw more cards. So there's just a lot of interesting decisions. I really enjoy the way he plays. He's basically like Iron Man to me, but fun. And that he also wants to put out a bunch of upgrades and weapons, and then he can turn them into card draw, which just turns into more upgrades and weapons. So you tend to have sort of a revolving door of things in play that you're constantly activating, whereas with Iron Man, and to be fair, some heroes I really like, you get a few cards on the table and then you're just activating those same cards every single time. So the way Rocket does it to me is more fun. You know, one turn you've got a rocket launcher, next turn you've got the particle cannon, maybe you've got a pistol hanging around. There's just always a lot going on with him. The fact that he's a Guardian ranks really highly with me because the Guardians have some really fun cards to play with. You know, the trait-specific cards, like Think Fast is really fun to use. I really like Welcome Aboard. Pretty much all of the Guardian-specific cards are great. I think he's really fun to play in all 4 aspects. That's definitely something that comes with the heroes I like the best. They're not usually pigeonholed into just one aspect, with one very notable exception among my favorites. But so whenever I build a Rocket Raccoon deck, you know, I know it's going to look different from the last time I built one because you can do a lot of different things with him. Even though he wants the upgrades in play, I feel like he has enough of his own that he doesn't necessarily need to include a ton more to make his abilities work. So I think he has a little bit more flexibility in that way. So yeah, I could probably keep talking about Rocket, but I should move on. Just really like him. And as much as I like Rocket, that just speaks to how much I really, really love Nova. I think he is so much fun to play. One of the most fun factor heroes in the whole game, and largely it has to do with Unleash Nova Force. What a ridiculously bonkers card that is. Even in solo play, you can get a ton of work from that card, just defeating things, readying, drawing cards, and just over and over and over. It's such a blast. His gimmick of using wild resources to pay for things isn't super exciting, I think, because you're just really using the helmet to do that. So when he was coming out, I think we thought, like, of all these ways, how can we pack our deck full of wild resources so that we can be sure to pay for his stuff? Like, oh, no, you just use the helmet. The helmet pretty much covers it. So I don't think that gimmick is particularly exciting, but his cards are really strong just because they are so cheap for how much they do for you. Ms. Marvel is an amazing signature ally. It's really fun to bounce those events back to your hand to play them again. He is a champion, which means he has access to Moon Girl and Champion's Mobile Bunker, which I absolutely love those cards. And he also has Go for Champions, which is one of the most powerful cards in the whole game. So I think Nova is incredibly strong and incredibly fun to play. So he's definitely one of my favorite aggression heroes, and probably not too far off the top of the whole list, but we'll worry about that later. Coming in, my second favorite hero that came in aggression is a very new hero, Shadowcat. From the first time I played Shadowcat, I absolutely loved her. I'm a big fan of the form flipping mechanism in this game, whether it's going from alter ego to hero and back, or the heroes that have multiple forms they can change into. And the way Shadowcat's works is just amazing. The solid and phased thing, the way it's such a puzzle, figuring out how you want to play her turn to make sure that you end up in the right form when you go to the villain phase. And there's so many little tricks you can do with switching back and forth between solid and phase. I love that the solid provides a resource for her to pay for an event. That's just super helpful. It's so nice to have a resource starting out on the table when you play. There's a ton of good X-Men support, so there's a lot of cool cards you can put in her deck. Lockheed's a pretty decent signature ally. She's just got a lot going for her. Cards are really strong. She can use the form flipping cards, which are all pretty fun. There's really nothing I don't like about Shadowcat. Her ability to not take damage when she's phased is just so ridiculously powerful, and somehow I think that was largely overlooked before she was coming out, because we got really focused on this whole she can ignore the guard and patrol and crisis icons. Like, that didn't seem that exciting because that's going to be a very occasional thing. And it turns out that's true. You know, those don't always come into play in every single game you play, but when you do get to use those abilities, it does feel really good to just completely bypass a guard and keep attacking the villain, because you probably don't need to even worry about that card because they probably aren't hitting you that hard. So you can just kind of continue to ignore them, or maybe you can do the free damage to them with her one upgrade, so taking them out without wasting any of your time. I think she just creates a lot of fun moments, a lot of interesting decisions. She feels really strong and just really, really fun for me to play. So absolutely love Shadowcat. Another one that is pretty high on my overall list, but you're gonna find out I really, really love a lot of the heroes in this game. There aren't too many that I sort of actively dislike. There's quite a few I really like, and there's quite a fair few that I still love too. So the very top is pretty heavy, actually. And my favorite hero that came in aggression, if you're keeping track in your head, you already know that it is going to be Wasp. I just recently completed a series where I was doing my best to show everybody how awesome Wasp is, just because that's how much I love her. And I think she is the most underrated hero in this game. I don't think Wasp gets much attention at all, and I think she's absolutely amazing. She has access to almost every single thing you can do in this game. She has Aerial, Overkill, Piercing, Retaliate. So you can build her deck in so many different ways. Her alter ego, tiny and giant forms all have completely different powers that you can build your deck around, or make use of all of them over the course of one game. Her attack events are so powerful when she's in tiny form, and her ability to spread her attack and thwart around when she's in giant form is just so efficient and useful. I think when you look at Wasp, she doesn't seem very exciting because everything she does is good, but other than her ability to spread things out in giant, there's nothing about her that really stands out. But for someone like me who loves to build decks and loves finding synergies within a hero with the card pool, there's so much you can find with her to do. You can build a lot of different decks with her, and her alter ego ability especially, that allows you to shuffle cards back in with the mental resource. I've talked about this so much on my channel, so if you watch my stuff frequently. I'm sorry that you're hearing this for the 800th time, but man, that is fun. Getting to recycle some of the best cards in the game: Moon Girl, Genius, Nick Fury, Ironheart, Maria Hill, Rapid Response. There are so many good cards. Perseverance, Ever Vigilant, Clear the Area. I mean, I can name them in every aspect because I've done it all with Wasp, and it's a blast. So if you're not a big Wasp fan and you haven't watched my recent series on her, I hope you'll check it out and maybe you'll find some fun there. Not that it's wrong that you don't like her, but there might be more fun there than you thought there was. So huge fan of Wasp, and she's absolutely my favorite hero that came in the aggression trait. So next up, let's go through the heroes that came in Justice. Now, weirdly for me, as a solo almost only player, you might think I would love Justice, but it's actually one of my least favorite aspects to play. I know it's particularly strong in solo, but for whatever reason, other than one way or another, it doesn't do anything that really excites me too much. But there's not a hero that came in Justice that I don't at least like pretty decently well. Starting out with my least favorite hero that came out in Justice, Phoenix. I don't hate Phoenix. I think she's fine, but she is probably my least favorite hero that came out in yellow just because there's nothing that really excites me about her. Her 3 thwart is incredibly strong. She has a lot of really interesting cards in her kit, but what she doesn't have is any kind of unifying theme that makes her interesting to build decks for, other than she does have the psionic trait, so you get to include the cool psionic card for each aspect, but there are going to be other psionic heroes that can do the same thing, so I don't think that's particularly special. You know, Mind Control is an awesome card, and I like that she has the free resources that you can spend off of her Phoenix suit. And the thing that I think is supposed to make her interesting, the whole threat of the Dark Phoenix, to me just is kind of not interesting at all. There's only 2 cards in the whole encounter deck that can make that happen. And if you're not unleashed, there's really only one. You know, in every game you play, you either see shadows or you don't. There's nothing you can really do about it. She has ways of dealing with the Dark Phoenix decently easily, so that part's not that exciting either. Now, I said I don't dislike her, and I don't, so if I sound like I'm being down on her, she is still my least favorite hero out of this bunch. And part of that is sort of similar with Valkyrie. There's just a little bit of a disappointment factor there. I was really looking forward to her. I thought she seemed like she would be cool, but every time I play her, I don't feel like I'm really doing anything very interesting. I like plenty of her cards. I really like the Telepathic Shield, and when she's unleashed, her attack and thwart events are interesting, and I usually do just try to get unleashed as fast as I can, because honestly, I just don't really care if the Dark Phoenix comes out. I just don't think it's that big of a deal. Yeah, you might end up losing the game, but she's kind of boring to play if you're not unleashed. So the risk reward that's supposed to be there for me, I'm just like, I'm just going all in, because why not? Now, early in the game, it's nice. You start out with that 3 thwart that's going to help you manage the game, get built up a little bit, and then you get unleashed to close out the game. And that's fine. That's not even bad. It's just not that great to me. So Phoenix comes in last in my Justice rankings, but she won't necessarily be among the bottom heroes when we do the whole thing. Next up is Spider-Man. And again, I like Spider-Man. He's fine. He's fun. I love his ability to draw a card when a villain attacks you. That's really fun, especially if that card ends up being a backflip and you get to use it immediately to prevent all the damage. I'm a huge fan of Protection, which he plays best in. So that works really well for me. I don't find him to be super great in solo just because he does kind of struggle to take out medium-sized minions because he only has the one big attack card, and it's kind of hard to spend 3 resources to take out a 4-cost minion. But he's not really good at dealing with it otherwise because he's probably exhausted to defend. And so you don't always have access to his 2 attack. He's not great at thwarting, so that also makes it tough in solo. But you can build really cool decks with him in all the aspects, I think, and I do really enjoy playing him. I haven't really played him much in a while, but when new protection cards come out especially, it does make me kind of want to get him out. Hopefully I will do so soon because I do think he's fun to play. I do like him, but he comes in pretty low compared to the other heroes in this group. One I like slightly more would be Black Widow. She's another one whose style should appeal to me more than it does, but for whatever reason, I'm rarely inspired to bring her out. I love going to Alter Ego and back, and that's definitely a thing she likes to do, or even staying in Alter Ego, even better. I think that's an absolute blast to play that way. And she actually has the ability to do that, even in solo, in a lot of the scenarios, so it doesn't always work, but it's really fun when it does. I think the thing that holds Black Widow back for me is there just hasn't really been any new cards to come out that make me excited to build decks with her. I know she works really well with the shield stuff, but so does everybody else. Even if she does work a little bit better, it didn't really inspire me to want to play her that way. And it's really strange to me that they haven't come out with any more preparation cards other than Anticipation, which isn't particularly synergistic with her, so that wasn't really a new one for her. And so yeah, she's just okay to me. I like her fine. I haven't played her in a while, and I just haven't really wanted to. But when I do play her, I have a pretty good time. So that's where Black Widow lands. And from here on out, I really quite like everybody. We get Adam Warlock next. I think Adam Warlock's gameplay is incredibly fun. I absolutely love using the Mystic Senses to draw cards after using the Battle Mage. I think that's a really, really interesting loop of actions to take every turn, where you get to discard a card to do something useful, draw a couple cards back once he's fully set up, and then you can ready with his cape. I just think that is a really, really fun way to play. Now, his deck building, which should be incredibly interesting, and it can be, because he uses all 4 aspects, so he's not technically a Justice hero, but I needed to put him somewhere. But he is limited by the fact that he can only use 1 of each card. Now, he does have those cards to get him out of the discard pile, so that does help. But for all the cool combos you want to put in him, they can be a little bit unreliable, so that holds him back for me. So I'm rarely inspired to build new decks with him, just because there's kind of a few really good ways to play him, and you should usually stick to those. But when I do play him, I have a really good time. Having access to the Mystic and the Guardian cards certainly makes him strong. So I am always happy to be playing Adam Warlock when I do so. Now next up is one that has kind of fallen on my list a little bit, but I do still really like him a lot, and that is Venom. I think Venom was probably in my top 5 at one point, and he likely won't be when we get to ranking everybody, but I'm not even entirely sure why. I think it's just, I just like other heroes more, because I do really, really like Venom. I love his versatility. He's so good in solo because he can do everything well. He can stun and confuse. He can manage the board better than almost anybody else between the multi-gun and how versatile his pistols make his basic activation. I really, really enjoy his gameplay. It's fun that you can do so much on your turn and then use a running gun to stand everything up and then exhaust everything again to do completely different things with them the second time. And so I always have a lot of fun when I play Venom. He plays well in all the aspects. He's a rare hero that I actually enjoy playing in Aggression the most. Aggression is my least favorite aspect. Not because I don't like it, it's just I play so much solo and it can be hard to win in solo without just rushing down the villain, which isn't a preferred playstyle of mine. But I really enjoy playing him in Aggression just because he can manage the board well enough that I don't have to rush to win. I can still play the sort of control style that I enjoy, but also get to get the red cards out of my box from time to time. I really, really like Dropkick, and he plays that well with his wild resource generation. And so there's a lot of things I really, really like about Venom. I'm surprised he isn't higher. I just like other heroes more. So yeah, but Venom is really, really good. Next for me is Nebula. I think Nebula, similar to Nova, is just pure fun. When I play her, I always have such a blast. To me, she is the more fun version of Black Widow, where they have a similar play style where you're trying to get a whole bunch of stuff into play and then you trigger it when you can and, you know, it goes away. But Nebula's cards are just a lot more fun to me than Black Widow's. I love that her techniques all have a constant effect, that it's either preventing damage or giving her retaliate, letting her ignore guard, things like that. So her abilities just change from turn to turn. And that can be a bit unreliable. You don't always know what you're going to get with Nebula. It just sort of depends on which techniques you draw. But to me, that's fun. I really enjoy the sort of riskier, less reliable heroes at times. I think that, you know, if there were dice in the game, these are the heroes that would be rolling the dice, and that would be fun to me. But even though she can be a bit unreliable, I do think she's strong, and I think she plays really well in solo because you do have some control. She has those cards that let you shuffle her techniques back in, so you can pick and choose which ones you want. It's fun to build decks around certain ones of the techniques and try to get those into play as often as you can. Her wide stance that allows her to scry the encounter deck is incredibly strong for solo, and I always think that's really fun to do. And she's one I really like building decks for because her hero kit is really good at doing a little bit of everything. And so you can kind of build whatever kind of deck you want for her. Trust that her hero cards are going to manage the board, and then just you can put whatever cool combos in her deck, and you can trust that you're going to be able to do them because her hero cards are getting the job done. I think she's a really, really fun hero to play. I know she's not for everybody. She's probably a lot higher on my list than maybe she is for other people, but from the day she came out, she shot really high up on my rankings, and she has fallen a bit too, similar to Venom, but only because there are so many great heroes in this game that I happen to like more than her, but it doesn't take anything away from Nebula. I think she's awesome. Spider-Woman, however, is just that much more awesome. I called Spider-Woman the perfect Marvel champion in my solo hero rankings, and I really do think she is. For playing solo, there's nothing Spider-Woman can't do because she can build decks with 2 different aspects, which is incredibly powerful, and in my opinion, way more powerful than Adam Warlock's ability. Even though he can build with all 4, being limited to 1 of each card does make those combos less reliable, with Spider-Woman being able to take as many copies of a card as she wants in each aspect as long as the whole thing balances out in the end. Her combos are incredibly reliable, and there's a reason why this game forces you to build with 1 aspect at a time, because they're all meant to have weaknesses, they're all meant to have holes, and she can just cover that up with the other aspect. And so that alone makes her incredibly powerful, so she should probably be balanced out with a weak hero ability, but instead she has an incredibly powerful one that when she does play cards from multiple aspects, her stats just keep getting higher and higher, and her deck comes with 3 cheap readies, so she can make multiple uses of those stats each round. So she is so strong. And I think if you're going to play solo, she would be the first person to pick every time because she can do whatever you want in any situation. She has access to stun and confuse very easily, so she can control the villain when you need to. She can thwart, she can deal damage. There's nothing she can't do. She can draw cards with her signature ally. She's absolutely amazing. Now, the way I'm talking, you think she should be ranked higher, but like I keep saying, there's just a lot of heroes I really love in this game, and so there are things about them I like more than her, but I don't have anything negative to say about her. She plays so wonderfully. I always have so much fun. It's endlessly interesting trying to come up with different deck concepts for her because she could play literally every combo in the game. So yeah, Spider-Woman is great. But my next one just speaks to me that much more, the Scarlet Witch, just because of the random nature. I got done saying with Nebula how I really like the heroes that are a little bit unreliable. You don't know what they're going to give you, but usually what that does is they give you power in return. And Scarlet Witch definitely feels powerful. Even though you're not always sure what she's going to do, whatever it is going to be strong. And I think that type of gameplay is absolutely fascinating. Her Hex Bolts, just flipping 3 cards and seeing what you get, is an absolute blast. You can control it somewhat with the Crest and with her Chaos Control ability, but I'm usually just happy to draw some cards, deal some damage, remove some threat. Whatever she wants to do, let's just do it and see what happens next. Molecular Decay can be an incredibly powerful attack event that can close out games for you. She can manage the board well, if somewhat unreliably. She can draw a ton of cards because she's a mystic and she has a good alter ego ability. The only thing Scarlet Witch doesn't have going for her is her signature ally Quicksilver. He's good. I'm not always in love with the 4-cost signature allies. I find them a little bit difficult to play at times. But other than that, she's awesome. The chaos magic that lets you play a card for free, making it easy to play cards like Quicksilver, but also Avengers Mansion, Nick Fury, whatever you want to drop into play that's expensive, you can do it for nothing. So every deck pass, you're always hoping to get that card with something expensive. It's just so much fun to do. And I said at the beginning, power doesn't make me not like a hero, and I'm perfectly fine with the Mystics being strong. I love playing Spiritual Meditation, and the other Mystic cards are fun to use as well. Sorcerer Supreme, all the powerful events. So I always have fun when I'm playing Scarlet Witch, and I'm always excited to do it. There isn't usually too large of a gap between the last time I played Scarlet Witch and the next time. I want to get her out pretty occasionally. I really like her. My second favorite hero that came with Justice cards is Spider-Man Miles Morales. He's one that has fallen just slightly for me. The last time I did this, he was my second favorite hero. And as it stands now, he still has the potential to be that, the way we have ranked these. But he won't be. He's slipped a bit. And not for any particular reason. I do still really like him. His ability to control the board, so much stun, so much confuse. It is just effortlessly easy for him to manage the board, to control the villain. When you play him, he really does feel like he's just swinging all over with this incredibly cheap and powerful events. And the thing I like best about him is the double life card that allows him to switch down to alter ego. He gets to shuffle a card back into his deck. which is becoming one of my absolute favorite alter ego abilities because your most powerful cards are your hero cards and he can easily get those back. He has a couple alter ego supports that are pretty useful, and then he can just jump right back into the action. Or you can start your turn in alter ego, jump up to hero form, play some cards to confuse the villain, manage the board, and then use double life to just flip right back down to alter ego and draw the extra cards and not get attacked again. So he's really versatile in that way. Now, I know a common thing people say about Miles Morales is he's really strong unless he's playing against Stalwart, and then he's not anymore. And I tend to push back against that a little bit. Obviously, he's not as strong against Stalwart because his Stun and Confuse, it stops being useful. But the Venom Blast still deals 2 extra damage, and the Spider Camouflage will still give him a tough, so they don't completely become useless. And his attack and thwart events are still so cheap that he can get a lot of work done. He does have to pack in some extra defense because he's not stunning the villain every turn, but so does every other hero that isn't stunning the villain every turn. So I don't think it holds him back that much. Certainly it drops him a bit in the power ranking, but I don't think it makes him less fun to play. Now I can see how he probably seems like he shouldn't be as high as he is if I keep talking about how I really like the heroes that do like really interesting and weird things. And he's pretty straightforward. He's just strong. But it really comes down to the double life mechanism. I absolutely love being able to go to alter ego easily, and the fact that he can just jump down and jump right back up. It doesn't get any easier than that, especially considering when he flips to alter ego, he can just shuffle a double life back into his deck, meaning he can be doing that trick almost every turn. And I think that is really, really fun. It's very thematic to the character himself. You know, he really, more than most Marvel heroes, trying to manage his real life alongside his superhero life. I think they absolutely nailed the character. I'm a big fan of the character. And so Spider-Man Miles Morales is super, super good to me. But my favorite hero that came with the yellow cards is Spider-Ham. I love this silly pig so much. If I said I wasn't bothered by a hero being strong, I guess this proves it. Because Spider-Ham, in my opinion, is the strongest hero in this game. Now I know we always say Doctor Strange is the strongest, and it seems like apparently that's never going to change, but I think Spider-Ham is stronger now. It's hard to determine that objectively. But his ability to get free resources every single time he takes damage is just endlessly useful. Like, that is always going to be good, and you're always going to be taking damage for any number of reasons. And then you're just getting free resources, which you can turn into incredibly powerful cards because his hero kit is amazing. Every card in his deck is so good and so strong. And he just makes the game easy. Doctor Strange does too. I'm not saying he's like way stronger than Doctor Strange, but I think he is at least up there. If not the strongest, then probably the second. The only thing he doesn't really have is stun, but his cartoon physics reduces an attack down to 1, which is what he wants anyway. And then he can easily confuse the villain, take advantage of going to alter ego and heal right back up, get some extra tune counters. Now I know his cartoony theme can turn some people off, and that's totally fair. It doesn't bother me. By any means, I don't mind the goofiness. The fact that he's a web warrior just lends that much more strength because there are a lot of really good web warrior cards. But that's not why I like him so much. I'm not as interested in power, though, to be fair, I think the powerful heroes are more fun to play just because you get to do more stuff. You know, the less powerful, maybe more clunky heroes, I'm not saying they're not fun to play, but sometimes you have turns where you just don't do much, and I don't think that's very fun. But when you're playing somebody really strong like a Spider-Ham or a Miles Morales, I just think that's fun because you're taking so many different actions on your turn because their cards are just better than other people's, their abilities are better than other people's, which just makes it possible to get more done. And to me, that's fun, so huge, huge fan of Spider-Ham. I'm always very excited to play him. I love playing him in all 4 aspects. Even aggression in solo, he still plays well because he can thwart really, really well. So yeah, there's nothing about Spider-Ham I don't love. That is going to do it for the Justice Heroes. And that will bring us to leadership. Now, leadership is my favorite aspect to play in this game. Again, clearly I'm not bothered by power, and I really enjoy the ally side of things. I think it's fun to build a team. Having a lot of different allies jumping in and out of play, to me, that's a really interesting way to play. I know some will say they feel that that takes away from the hero, and that might be true, but I guess to me that's not a problem. Every book has a supporting cast, and I like building a team for the job, so I'm a big fan of leadership, but that doesn't mean I like every hero that came in leadership. starting with my least favorite hero in this aspect, and that is going to be War Machine. I just really don't like War Machine. I do not have fun when I play him. Ammo counter mechanism just isn't terribly interesting to me. It's basically just a limitation and another resource that you need to find a way to acquire. He's another one of those heroes that requires you to go to alter ego, but he doesn't thwart very well. Now, he's not as bad at it as Valkyrie because he does have a pretty decent thwart event, and he has a really useful alter ego ability where he can shuffle cards back in, so you can just keep shuffling your thwart event back into your deck if you need to, which if you're playing solo, you're going to need to. And even playing him in Justice, which is probably what's best for him in solo, I still just don't really have fun when I'm doing so. Like, he's strong, you can win with him, but I want to have fun. I want to be having cool moments, and to me, it's just damage, damage, damage with War Machine. And weirdly, in this game about dealing enough damage to win, damaging the villain is the least interesting thing you do in this game. For me, I really like building up a bunch of stuff, which he does do, but all of that is just to pour damage into the villain. I don't know. There's just something about him that doesn't really appeal to me, but kind of like a lot. He's pretty far down there, I'll tell you now. So there's a really good chance I would never choose to play War Machine again. So I would be okay with that. So sorry if you're a big War Machine fan. I know that there are people who are, and I certainly don't blame you. I can see the appeal. It's just doesn't hit me right, I guess. Next up is Spectrum. And Spectrum is another weird one that I should like more than I do, but for some reason, it just never seems to work out. Now, I have tried multiple times, and I know I'm going to say some of the same stuff that a lot of people do, but her form flipping is just not super interesting to me because it's so limited to the events that you draw. You're not able to just choose to change forms, which I get. Like, that's her gameplay, is you got to figure that out. But for whatever reason, it just doesn't really work for me. I don't enjoy it very much. Now, I don't dislike her that much. Like, she's no War Machine to me. But she is pretty low in this group, and it's because I just rarely feel like getting her out. Once in a while, I feel like I need to give her another chance, and I get her out, and I have an okay time. But for all the heroes in this game, I just really enjoy playing so much. I don't want to spend too much time playing the heroes that just don't appeal to me. So I think she's good. I think you can do a lot of cool things with her. She plays well in probably all the aspects. I don't really enjoy her in leadership very much, just because at least in the other three aspects, you have access to thwarting or damage and things like that that can get you out of a jam if you are stuck in the wrong aspect, whereas in leadership, you know, you're just kind of relying on your allies, I guess. So I don't think she's bad by any means, but she's another one that I just rarely get inspired to play. So Spectrum is kind of down on the list. Next up is Hawkeye, who is someone I don't play very often, but I do like. I feel like in my mind, I do like Hawkeye, and I say that because it has been quite a little while since I have played him. But I do enjoy his gameplay loop. If you get out the quiver, it's fun to go find an arrow every turn. And, you know, they give you a lot of different options, which is definitely gameplay I enjoy. I think he plays decently well in solo. You really have to build for him more than maybe some of the other heroes, but you can make it work. One thing that holds him back for me is he has absolutely zero reason to go to alter ego, which is a little boring to me because I do like flipping down occasionally and making use of cool supports or a neat alter ego ability. He literally doesn't even have one, which to me makes him a pretty one-sided character. No pun intended. But I think there's probably a little bit more to Hawkeye than that, but for whatever reason, they felt like his personal life contributed nothing to his abilities as a superhero. So he's one I don't play very often, but I don't dislike him by any means. He's just, you know, there's so many heroes that kind of land in that middle where you just don't get back around to him. And Hawkeye is definitely in that spot. Captain America is someone that I would like to get back around to, but I haven't played him in a while either. Because even though he is very, very strong and he plays very well in solo and he likes to go to alter ego and he does a lot of the things I like, he doesn't do any of them terribly interestingly to me, I guess. He is very, very straightforward to play, and I wish he had a little bit more nuance. Now he's Captain America, so he really doesn't have a lot of nuance. So he's made well, and I do want to play him. I heavily featured him in a video a little while back when I was talking about how to find synergies in hero kits, and looking at his cards, it really made me want to play him. And I thought I would, but I never did get around to getting him out, so I guess I didn't want to that badly. That kind of tells me about where he ranks. He just kind of falls in the middle. I like him better than some heroes. He's really good. He has good cards, plays well in all the aspects, but yeah, I just haven't felt like building a new deck for him in a long time. Haven't felt like playing him, so that is where Cap lands. Next up is Star-Lord, and he is in some ways the absolute polar opposite of Captain America, where Captain America is Mr. Reliable and Star-Lord is anything but. But what he is, to me, is a lot of fun. You've already heard me talk about Nebula, and even more so with Scarlet Witch, and even more so with Star-Lord. Love that risk-reward gameplay of taking those extra encounter cards to play incredibly powerful, expensive cards, getting cool stuff into play, but of course at the risk of letting the villain do more of what they want to do. And I don't always win when I play with Star-Lord because I don't play him as smartly as you should. You really probably shouldn't be taking advantage of that ability every turn. It's probably not always worth it. But to me, it's always fun. And he does play really well in leadership, which suits me nicely. I like building a big board of allies, and he is able to do that. He can do some fun things by turning all the allies into guardians. And he just lets you do things that not other heroes let you do because he can play those expensive cards. He can play Beta Ray Bill. He can play a lot of 4-cost cards that you probably wouldn't include in other people's decks. So he literally lets you do things that other heroes just probably can't do. And to me, that alone speaks to how much fun he can be. You just have to be willing to lose a few games every now and then to have that fun. And I'm willing to do that. I don't play to win, I play for a good time. And Star-Lord always gives me a good time. So, I mean, he's only in the middle of this group, but there's a lot of heroes coming up that I really like. And I would say I do really like Star-Lord. He's in the upper half of my heroes most likely for sure. I always have fun when I play him. One of the newest heroes, Cyclops, is next on my list. And I got a chance to play Cyclops recently, and I just had a really, really good time with him. I think you can do some really interesting things with Cyclops. You know, where some heroes feel pretty one-sided, he's got a lot going on because you can really lean into his ability to include X-Men allies from all the aspects, or you can simply just view that as a nice thing and he can take the best few allies that he wants, and you can lean into his Optic Blast ability. If you're playing multiplayer, you can really try to help out the rest of the table with his tactics upgrades. There's really cool combos you can do with the different tactic cards in the card pool, and his ability to get them back with his thwarting event makes for some really neat moments. It does feel really, really strong when you use the full blast. I know I said damaging the villain is the least interesting thing to me, but it's still fun to do those big attacks now and then, and I think his feels really, really strong when he does it, probably because it requires so much setup. You know, you have to get a tactic upgrade on the person that you're attacking with his Optic Blast ability, and you really want to have the Ruby Quartz Visor in play and the full blast in your hand. But I think you're well rewarded for that because you're getting like 11 damage with piercing and overkill, I think. Like, it feels really strong. And I actually like that he has to use the tactics to set off his ability because it's already incredibly powerful. 1 resource to deal 3 damage is super strong. Though there is the additional cost of needing to put an upgrade out on the enemy, but you're getting some kind of benefit from that upgrade, so it's not a pure cost. You're getting something back for that. I think all of his upgrades are pretty interesting. It's fun to reduce damage or to deal extra damage, or even more so to draw cards. And this is all from a solo perspective I'm speaking now. Obviously when you're playing in multiplayer, it's even better because the whole table can take advantage of that stuff. So yeah, I really like Cyclops. I was really looking forward to him when he was coming out, and I didn't get to play him too much at first, but I have played him recently and really had a good time with him and looking forward to playing with him more. So out of sort of all the leader characters, Star-Lord and then Cap and Cyclops, Cyclops is the one I like the most. But a little bit more is Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel does a lot of things I really, really like in this game. She gets a lot of resources, which means you can play cool cards. It is very easy for her to draw extra cards, which is really fun to me. She can heal in hero form, which is a pretty underrated power. I think that is really, really good to be able to just stay in hero form, keep healing for 1 every turn. It basically means she has way more than even the 12 hit points it says. So yeah, for all the talk of the Spider-Hams and the Doctor Stranges of the game, I think Captain Marvel is right up there in that conversation. There's not much she can't do. With all those resources and all that card draw, you can build any kind of deck for her you want in any aspect, and they're going to be fun to play. She has access to Confuse, so it's easy for her to get the Alter Ego to draw even more cards. The existence of Sharon Carter just jacked her up to even the next level because the ability to ready the Alpha Flight Station to draw even more cards in Alter Ego. Even if you don't play any other shield cards, I think it's worth including Sharon in every Captain Marvel deck just for the combo of using it with Alpha Flight Station. It makes her so crazy strong. In multiplayer, she can share some of that love and give cards to other people, which is nice. Yeah, she, to me, is a really good example of someone who's really strong, but also really fun. Like, you're going to have a good time absolutely massacring the villain because you're doing all the things that are fun to do in card games. You're drawing cards and you're playing cool cards. What's not to love about that? As we're getting close to the top of the leadership heroes, the next one for me is going to be Ant-Man. Now, Ant-Man is a hero that I really wish I played more often than I do. In my mind, I always think about how much I like Ant-Man, and I always speak of him on the internet with such effusive praise. And then I never play him. I just never get him out of the box. I don't know why. I really, really like him. His form flipping is just endlessly fun. I think one of the reasons people don't like Wasp is her form flipping just isn't, there's nothing fun about it because there's no reward from it. She gets a different ability, but when, if you've played Ant-Man, who came out right before Wasp, you flip in a tiny form and you get to remove a threat. You flip in a giant form and you get to deal damage. Like, it really feels like I flipped and I did something, and there's just a huge fun factor there. And then that gets amplified when his helmet is in play because you also get to draw cards or heal. And then if he's got his giant strength on the table, you're increasing your attack. He's got resize, so he's flipping back and forth all the time. He's got the army of ants, so when he's in tiny form, he gets to deal all this free damage. You see how I'm talking about Ant-Man? How much joy is in my voice? But I never play him, but I'm still ranking him high because I do think all those things about him. I think so highly of him. There's a lot of cool decks you can build with him because his deck works so well that you can kind of do whatever you want with him. So yeah, he's awesome. And every time I talk about him, it makes me want to play him. And darn it, I really need to because Ant-Man is so fun. The second highest ranked leadership hero for me is the newest hero to come out, Storm. Well, technically, she and Wolverine came out at the same time, but I was more excited for Storm, and I've played her a lot more, so to me, she kind of takes the top billing there. That weather deck is so cool. Being able to swap the top card of the weather deck once per turn for free, to me, is such a better Spectrum. They have similar ideas that when Spectrum changes forms, she gets a little bit of a bonus, kind of like Ant-Man. They're all three kind of similar in some ways. But it just works so much better with Storm because she can do it for free, and she does have cards that let her change it more often. But even better than that, her events combo off the top card of the weather deck. So it is really, really fun to try to match up the events in your hand with the right card on top of the weather deck, but you always have to factor in what that's doing for the villain because it affects everybody. And in multiplayer, even more so, you have to factor in what it's doing for everybody else. And so that's why I actually think I would prefer her in solo. That way you don't have to worry about that stuff. It's just you and the villain, and you have total control over what's happening. The weather effects are incredibly strong. Her events are incredibly strong. They are expensive. That's the one thing about Storm that I don't love is her kit is really expensive. She does have a resource card to help her pay for things, but you kind of have to pack her full of resources. But if you do and you get them on the table, she can do so much on her turn, and it's going to be a really good time doing it. The X-Men have incredible support, so you can put a lot of really strong cards in her deck now. X-Men decks are kind of starting to look very similar to each other, kind of like the Web Warriors, because there are a lot of good X-Men traded cards, a lot of good Web Warrior cards that you're going to want to include, but I'm not going to take that away from the hero. You pick and choose which ones you want. But yeah, Storm is so cool, and I really have a good time every time I play her. I'd love to play her more. There are 41 heroes in this game, and it's so hard to find the time to play the ones you really like, which is why the heroes that you kind of like the Hawkeyes and the Spider-Mans of the world, they just, when do you have time to get back to them? Because there's probably 25 heroes that you like even more than them. But Storm's one I want to make an effort to keep playing more and more often because, man, I feel like they really, really designed her well. She is really strong and really fun. And to me, that's what I'm always looking for. I enjoy having a powerful hero, but I want them to be fun to play. And Storm is really up there for the power plus fun factor, kind of like Spider-Ham there. And kind of like Ironheart. My favorite leadership hero. Man, is she strong. And man, is she fun. She has that upgrade style that I really love, but in a completely different way. For her, it's less about getting cards on the table, though she certainly has some good ones that you want to get out. But it's all about getting those progress counters and using her events to try to clear that last threat or try to finish off that minion so you can get the extra progress counters. That is always fun to me. The fact that you can just go to Alter Ego and buy them is nice too, because you can get to level 2 pretty quickly, and you certainly want to, because you do not want to have that 4 hand size for more than a turn or two. And then it's shockingly easy to get to version 3, even in solo. Seems like that should probably be harder than it is. I think there are a few people that don't like her because she is overpowered, and I would not disagree with that. She probably is too strong. The way they made her, it's so easy to get to that version 3, and then she can just turn progress counters into damage. So you're pretty much, if you get to version 3, you're going to win. You're just going to win. And you're probably going to get to version 3 because it's not as hard as it should be. But it's just so fun. There's something addictive about collecting the counters on her and trying to get to the 6 as fast as you can. She's got a really cool signature ally with Brawn, where you get the free resource when you exhaust him, so it's fun to try to find ways to exhaust him that's not going to cause him a consequential damage. And I have to be honest, one of the reasons I do love Ironheart as much as I do, and she is my favorite leadership hero, so she's going to be pretty high on the list, is she's the only hero in the game that can play Moon Girl, who is my favorite card in the game, in both her hero and her alter ego sides, because she is a genius and a champion. So either way, Moon Girl's happy to come out and draw you some cards. I love doing that. And being such a big fan of Wasp for as long as I have been, there are a lot of mental resource cards that I'm just very enamored with, and Ironheart also wants those because of Moon Girl and because of her alter ego ability. So she lets me play with a lot of my favorite cards. Man, I really love Ironheart. She's way up there for me. And I don't see that changing. I always have a really, really good time when I play her. When you get her upgrades that deal damage or remove threat equal to her version number on the table, you just feel so powerful. Like there's nothing she can't do. But it does take some work to get there. I'm probably overstating how easy it is. Those first few turns where you're trying to get to level 2, you know, those can be pretty dicey. And if she gets a slow start, then you might not come out on top. And that's meant to slow her, you know, that's meant to hold her back some, and that's good. But if you can weather that storm, and in solo, it's not going to work against every villain. But if you come out on the other side of that, you're going to be just fine. So yeah, Ironheart is so, so good. And that's going to do it for leadership. So finally, let's talk about the protection heroes. Similar to leadership, I'm a huge fan of the protection aspect. It's probably my second favorite. I play it quite a bit. I know it started out weak, but it definitely got stronger. Helped when they changed the rules, but it also helped when they came out with some really good cards for it. And I think it has turned into a really fun way to play with all the readying and the healing, and just there's so many useful effects, and it's kind of a real hodgepodge of different abilities. Like protection is kind of all over the place, and I think that's fun. Gives you a lot of freedom in deck building. It's probably among the more challenging aspects to win with in solo, so you might have to be a little choosier with which heroes you're going to play in protection and solo, but there are a lot of good options, so it's not that big of a deal. Now, also similar to leadership, as much as I love protection, the heroes are definitely a bit of a mixed bag. Starting with my least favorite hero that came with protection cards, that's going to be Groot. As much fun as I had playing him recently with the deck that my wife built for me, if you didn't see that video, you should check it out. It was pretty fun. He's just not one that I hardly ever want to play. Like, when she picked him, I kind of groaned inside a little bit, because I just never choose to play Groot. I haven't played him in a really long time other than that, because I just do not like the way he is designed. The growth counter mechanism is really fun, but the problem is half of his kit wants to use it one way, and the other half of his kit wants to use it another way. Either you're supposed to hold on to them, so his events are super powerful, like he can deal 10 damage with one event, or he can remove 10 threat if he has all his counters, and that's amazing. But he has all these upgrades that you're putting on the table that are going to ready him, increase his attack, thwart, and defense, and you got to spend all your counters to use those. So which is it, Groot? Do you want me to keep my counters, or do you want me to spend them? Because whichever one I choose, that means I'm not playing half the cards. And I just don't really like that split design. So he doesn't appeal to me very much. He's another one that needs to go to Alter Ego a lot to get those growth counters, but he's not super good at thwarting. So that holds him back for solo play. Maybe he's more fun in multiplayer. I don't know. I've never done it. I know you can make him work. I know he can be good, but I just really don't like that you kind of are picking and choosing which side of his kit you're going to play into, because he's only got 15 cards like everybody else, and I don't want half of them to be useless. So that's kind of my take on Groot. He's okay. I imagine he has his fans, but sadly, as much as I love the character, both in the comics and in the movies, I don't really want to play him in this game much anymore. Now, one that makes me sad that's coming in so low is Colossus. Speaking of characters I absolutely love, from the comics anyway, I haven't seen him much in the movies, but I've always loved Peter, but I don't know, there's something about the way he plays that just has not clicked with me yet. It's a really cool concept, having the extra tufts and using those to fuel very powerful effects is good. And some of this is probably just because he's another one of those that just doesn't play quite as well in solo. Because, you know, to play well in solo, it pretty much comes down to, can you remove threat? And he can, but it's not really what he wants to be doing. So I like him okay. I don't strongly dislike him. Like, I kind of actively dislike Groot, but I wouldn't say that about Colossus. I have had fun playing him, and when you get him up and running, you have that engine of Iron Will and Organic Steel going, and you're discarding the tufts, but you're getting him back, and you're drawing cards for doing it. You can stun and confuse the villain. Armor Up is a really cool card. Any card that messes with the way Alter Ego works, being able to flip down to do the cool things that you want to do in Alter Ego, and then you don't have to suffer the scheme because you can just jump right back into hero form. You don't even have to confuse the villain. You can just go straight back to hero form, you know, if you have Armor Up in your hand. That's a really, really cool style that I do appreciate of his. So I like Colossus okay, and I definitely want to play him more, but as it stands now, at least among all the other protection heroes, this is where he ends up landing. And really not much higher than him for me is Vision. I feel like I liked Vision more than other people did when he first came out. It seemed like a lot of the reviews on him were pretty low, and I remember kind of defending him in the comments and things like that, but I kind of take back a lot of what I said. Or at least I don't feel that way anymore, because I never feel like playing him. And sadly, I think a big part of that is just Vivian is so strong. And I know that's a common sentiment, so I'm not saying anything you've probably never heard before. But so much of this game for me is building interesting decks for heroes. And you certainly can do that for Vision. He's got a lot of cool different abilities that you can take advantage of. But it really feels like you're just supposed to try to play Vivian over and over and over again, because she's so efficient for her cost. She can do so much for you, and the reboot cards can just use her over and over again. Vision can just, you know, pretty much tank all the damage while Vivian does all the work for you. You don't have to play him that way. Certainly you can just choose to do something else. But when the strategy is just so available and so obvious, it's kind of, you just feel like you're hampering yourself for no real good reason. But I do like the way his cards work. I like the form flipping. I think it's cool that his events are kind of versatile in the way you have to be in one or the other. And you've got the density control to pull him back. You can definitely do interesting things with Vision. I don't think he's bad, and I don't dislike him, but I haven't felt like playing him in a while, and I don't know that that's going to change. So now we're kind of seeing that whole wave was just really weird. You know, Nebula came out and loved her. And then War Machine, Valkyrie, and Vision came out and was just like, I'm just going to go back and keep playing Nebula because I don't like any of these heroes very much. So I had fun with Vision for a while, but kind of put him down, and I don't really see picking him back up anytime soon. So that's kind of where I am with him. Now comes probably my most controversial pick from the last time I did the hero rankings, and that would be with Ghost Spider. I literally named my last hero ranking list, Please Don't Unsubscribe, because I knew I was going to be ranking Ghost Spider pretty low. A lot of people were really high on her at the time, and I feel like I still hear people talk pretty highly of her, and I think she's fine. I think she's really strong for sure, and she can be fun, but I've just had enough games with her that weren't that fun, whether it was because her dad got stolen by her obligation, or my hand kept getting clogged with her many, many cards that need to be played during the villain phase. Some of that comes from the fact that you really want to be playing her in protection, so you're already probably putting even more cards in your deck that need to be played in the villain phase, but when she works, she's great. Her ability to ready and do all this crazy powerful stuff, her events are so strong. You're removing 5 threat for 2, or dealing 6 damage for 2, and then getting to ready and hopefully drawing a card with a web bracelet. And if you can get and keep her dad in play and he's holding those cards for you so they're not clogging your hand, and then, you know, they're available to you when you need them, it really gives her a lot of versatility. Ticket to the Multiverse is rarely needed, but when you do trigger its ability and reset everything, it feels unbelievably powerful. But she comes in kind of low for me because I really only want to play her in protection. I know you certainly can play her in the other aspects and she's going to do things for you, but she's just so good in one aspect. So, you know, I played her in protection a whole bunch and haven't really wanted to do much more with her. I think she's good though. I don't want to be too negative, and I like her more than I did last time. I've played her a few times since then. Haven't played her much lately and haven't really wanted to, but I feel like every time I talk about Ghost Spider, I get myself in trouble because I just don't like her as much as I'm supposed to, it seems like, but I can't help it. I love the Web Warriors and I love that whole cycle a lot. You're going to see a lot of them towards the top, but Ghost Spider was sort of the one for me that just never really clicked the way the other ones did. So that's where she ends up. And to add insult to injury, I'm going to put Doctor Strange right on top of her, whom I know a lot of people really don't like, but I do. I think Doctor Strange is fun to play. We've already talked about, I enjoy powerful heroes. I enjoy doing cool things in the game. I enjoy drawing a lot of cards. I enjoy controlling the villain. And Doctor Strange does all of these things exceptionally well, maybe better than anyone else. You know, I said I think Spider-Ham might be stronger than Doctor Strange. And in solo, I really do think that that could be true. Now, multiplayer, Doctor Strange probably comes out ahead because he can do so much for the whole table. His ability to pass out tough cards like they were candy, while also stunning and confusing the villain, means even in a 4-player game, he can probably render most, if not all, of the villain's activations useless. Some of that goes a little bit to waste in solo, which is where I think Spider-Ham can maybe take a little bit more advantage of that, but either way, they're both really, really strong. Using the Master of the Mystic Arts to play a Winds of the Tomb off the top of the deck and then exhausting Doctor Strange to draw 3 more cards, I don't know, I think that's fun. I don't know why you wouldn't like doing that, but I know some people just don't like him because he just does everything so well, but I got nothing to say about Doctor Strange. I don't think he's boring to play. I like playing the Invocation cards. Yeah, some of the cards in his kit I find less interesting, but he does the things in this game I enjoy doing, so I do like playing Doctor Strange. He's kind of in the middle for me. He's not among my favorites necessarily, but I feel like I definitely like him more than a lot of people do. Now, one that has gone up for me in recent months is Black Panther. I'm pretty sure the last time we did this ranking, I had him down pretty low because I thought he was kind of boring. But maybe sometimes all you got to do in this game to move a hero up your list is just play them once in a while. You know, maybe if I played Ghost Spider or Iron Man or Spider-Man, they would move up too because I would find them more fun than I used to, because that's what happened with Black Panther. I played him when I did the silly Hot Wings thing when we got to 1,000 subscribers, and I had so much fun with him. Like, I always thought I didn't like him in solo because once you get those upgrades out, you know, and it's supposed to be fun to trigger the Wakanda Forever, and you're trying to pick and choose what order you should do the effects in to get the most out of it, and you're looking for all your targets. Well, in solo play, you probably don't have that many targets, and it's probably kind of obvious what order you want to do those things in. And that's no less true than it was before, but for whatever reason, I just had a lot more fun doing it. Felt really strong to play that one cost event and do so many things with it once he was fully set up. The Golden City is one of the strongest cards in the whole game, probably, going down to Alter Ego and using that to draw 2 cards. That's crazy. And he can get to Alter Ego. He can manage the board pretty well. He doesn't have any Confuse, but he can keep the threat low and get down to Alter Ego to take advantage of that. It's really strong. Shuri's an amazing signature ally. I wish there were more 2-cost signature allies in the game. I know I just had a lot to say about Vivian, and she's a 2-cost ally, but Shuri actually feels balanced. So yeah, there's actually quite a bit I like about Black Panther. I don't think he's very popular these days, but I had a lot of fun with him when I got him out recently, and that made me think a little more fondly of him than I used to. So again, maybe I should just do that with some of these other heroes, but sadly, I never want to. Now with Black Panther, somebody suggested it to me as a challenge. It was a whole animal theme, so that was what got me to get him out, but I was glad it happened. It was really fun. So maybe somebody needs to suggest a spy theme or a non-Ironheart armor theme or something to get me to play some of these heroes I never play, and maybe I'll like them better. But yeah, Black Panther, he climbed the list pretty well for me. Now, once upon a time, Quicksilver might have been my favorite hero in the whole game. We haven't talked too much about hero readying in this list, but that is a really, really fun thing to do, and Quicksilver does it better than anybody else. And you can just boost his stats and ready over and over and over, and I think that is fun. Even though that gameplay hook is pretty simple, I think there are still a lot of interesting things you can do with him. There's a lot of fun ways to build his deck, because he's just one of those that controls the board really well. Because of his natural abilities, there's just not much he can't do as far as removing threat and taking care of the minions. And then so whatever cards you put in his deck, you know, you can just have fun with those cards and do whatever it is you want to do. I think he's a really versatile and good solo hero in that way. And those maximum velocity turns where he's activating for 4 or 5 over and over and over or more, if you really can build your deck for it, that's just, you just feel strong, you feel powerful. He plays even better in multiplayer because he's going to have so many targets for all of those activations, and it's going to be easier to get set up for even crazier turns. Yeah, there's really nothing about Quicksilver I don't like. I always have a really, really good time playing him. I like him in all the aspects. I've built quite a few different Quicksilver decks that largely just boil down to how many times can you ready Quicksilver, but, you know, with different colored cards, I guess. And another thing that makes Quicksilver fun is the fact that you can use his ability in the villain phase, so you know, he gets that free defense every turn, and that just feels really strong. Even though he only has 9 hit points, he only has 1 built-in defense. At least you get to use it every turn. You know, he's one of those rare heroes that's actually going to make use of all of his stats, possibly every turn, which is pretty neat. So yeah, I've got nothing but love for Quicksilver. Now, when I talked about Ant-Man, I said that he was a hero I talked about incredibly highly online all the time and never played. And half of that is true for Ms. Marvel. Every chance I get, I am singing the praises of this character. I absolutely love this hero, but I also play her. She is just such a blast, and I really try to get her out whenever possible because you can build a lot of interesting decks for her, and she's one of those, kind of like Spider-Woman, that just keeps getting better and better. Every time new attack, thwart, or defense cards comes out, you have to consider, what does this mean for Ms. Marvel? And now that there are champion cards in the card pool, she's even better because now she can take advantage of the Mobile Bunker, which I think is an incredibly powerful card that just makes every hero that can take it better. So that gave her a power boost. And every time there's attack or thwart events that have multiple instances, she becomes interesting again because of her Embiggen and because of her shrink cards. So there's just so much she can do. She has all the alter ego play that I just absolutely love in this game. You get to flip down and take advantage of so many different effects. You know, she has a cool power. She's got 3 different supports in play that you can make use of. And then she just flips up and she just has so much power because she's reduced the cost of the next card by 1, and she's drawn extra cards, and she's got Bruno holding cards for her. Like, there's so much she can do, and she just feels so powerful. But in a really like weird way. Like, you have to play her well. You have to know, you kind of have to know how the rules work to really take advantage of Ms. Marvel, just because of the way response windows work and things like that. Like, you can do some amazingly powerful things with her that you might not even realize you can do, just because the rules can be a little tricky with that stuff. You know, at the bare minimum, just using a wiggle room to prevent 3 damage, draw a card, and then you return it with her ability and play it again, that just feels strong. Like, there's so much she can do. She is absolutely a top tier hero for me. So much fun, though. When I say that, you're going to see my top tier might be a little big, I guess. There's a lot of heroes I super duper love, and she is one of them. We've only got 2 left to talk about, and my second favorite hero that came with the green cards is the SPDR suit, or Spider suit, or Penny Parker, however we talk about this character. Oh my gosh, so much fun. Weird for sure, and you've got the 3-hand size and hero and the 4 and alter ego, and you've got to get all these cards into play to make it work, but man, it's really not that hard. Similar to how Ironheart should be harder to get to level 3, it feels like it should be harder to win with the SPDR suit, but it's just kind of pretty easy to do. It's so strong because you start with the 1 free interface upgrade on the table, so you've already got resources from there. And then if you can get one of those all systems go in your opening hand to go search for another one, really, if you can get 2 of them into play, you're just off to the races from there because you've got so many free resources. So even though you've only got 3 cards in your hand, you're probably able to play all 3 of them. And then you've always got the choice of whether or not you should be exhausting the upgrades for their abilities to pump her stats and ready her, or to use them as resources to play more cards. It's just always interesting. She has really, really good alter ego abilities to draw extra cards, to use Aunt May and Uncle Ben. So she's got a good reason to go to alter ego, which I really like in my heroes. And she's one that, even though she's strong, I do find her a challenge to play in solo, kind of like Ironheart, but more so. Where if you don't get a good start, you're going to have a hard time, because she does get that slow start, kind of like Iron Man, but I think she overcomes it much more easily. So she's one that, even though she's strong, I certainly wouldn't call her overpowered, at least not in solo. Maybe in multiplayer, where you have other people cover your bases, I imagine she's doing the bulk of the work by the end of the game. But she makes for a really fun game arc, because it's definitely uncertain early on how things are going to turn out, but if you can get a couple upgrades down quickly, you're probably going to be fine. And once again, of course, being a web warrior means she has access to even more really awesome cards. Like, the traits on heroes really matter. There are really good cards for every team in this game, and I think the champions and the web warriors, and now the X-Men certainly, have just gotten the best of them. So every time we get a new team and they get a lot of support, it just makes them really strong. It can make their decks look somewhat similar, and I think that's a valid criticism that some might make. But the cards are really, really fun to play, so I don't mind too much. So yeah, I'm just a really, really big fan of this character. I love the anime theme, very clearly based on Neon Genesis Evangelion, which is a show I have enjoyed for a long time. So that makes her my second favorite hero that came with protection cards. And that leaves only one. It's probably a little obvious to anybody who knows me, but it is still Drax. Even though I have not played Drax since the video I retired him in, I meant what I said, that I wasn't going to play him anymore, and I have not. But that has not changed how I feel about him. I still watch all the playthroughs online with him, and he still looks every bit as fun as he was the last time and every time I played him. I've never been able to explain my love for Drax, but it is real, and it continues. Even though I don't play him anymore, I still feel like I have to rank him number one in this category, because similar to Ironheart, where it's all about getting those counters, I love getting those vengeance counters. It's just fun. And then being able to turn those into so much power. His attack gets so high. You know, he's not great at removing threat, but when he can use an intimidation to remove 5 threat, that feels really good. Manus is an amazing signature ally, and all his cards are just fun. It's fun to use that Fight Me Coward to have the villain attack you, and then you get to stand up and hit him right back, but only stronger because you've got another vengeance counter, or you've got to draw a card. You get Dweethite Mastery in play, and you're just drawing cards all over the place. Even though he's a 4-hand size hero, I feel like he usually has more cards in his hand than most other heroes do, because he can draw so many cards with his basic attacks with Dweethite, and then the Fight Me Cowards replace themselves, and he's just so fun. You're just doing these chunks of 5 damage over and over and over. If you play him in protection, which is probably kind of clearly definitely his best aspect, you're going to get so many more readies with the What Doesn't Kill Me's, and you can use the Limitless Stamina because it's 14 hit points. So he's one that has just gotten better and better because of all the readies, and he just wants to make use of that huge attack. There's a lot about Drax that makes it so he shouldn't be so high for me. He does not want to go to Alter Ego, like actively wants to avoid it, in my opinion. Yeah, he can flip down and heal, and that's good, but then you got to start over with the vengeance counters, and I never liked doing that. So he doesn't have that element. He technically shouldn't play very well in solo unless you rush down the villain, which is not a strategy I usually employ. So I don't know why I like him so much. I still don't to this day. But I always just had the most fun I've ever had playing this game when I was playing Drax. So I'm always happy to see if somebody else gets him out on YouTube and you can watch somebody else play him. It's nice to see him again. So it was fun to talk about him again here. Just such a good, I think he's kind of underrated too, similar to what I said about Wasp. You know, he can really close out some games. He can just do so much damage. It doesn't take him too long to get set up, and then you're just attacking for 5, attacking for 5. You get a knife leap, you're attacking for 9 with overkill and piercing. And he can just get the job done. So I should probably like Wolverine a lot more than I do because of the way Drax works, but Drax actually takes time. Like, Drax can't kill the villain on the first turn like Wolverine can. Like, Drax needs to work for it. And you're really riding a thin line. He's definitely a risk-reward character because you're going to take some damage early on. You're going to take those hits, and you have to be really careful with the threat. Like, he's not going to remove all the threat in the game. You just have to remove just enough to not lose. And wherever you can find that extra thwarting, a couple allies here and there, or don't be afraid to use Manus to thwart for you if you need to. A timely intimidation can save the game. So you're going to lose a lot with Drax. Like, I don't mean he's underrated in power, because he is probably middle tier because he has so many limitations. And he is a little one-sided in that he just wants to attack straight forward all the time. But I don't think there's another more fun way to do it in the game than the way he does it. So as far as the protection hero goes, that makes him the top of the list. Not trying to give anything away here. So there we go. That is how I like each hero when compared to the other heroes in their aspect. But of course, this is a hero ranking, so we have to put them in a proper order. So I will be right back and we'll do that. All right, so now that we've seen how everybody stacks up within their own groups, it's time to find out how the whole thing shakes out at the end from last to first. I've rearranged everybody back into reverse order, and we're going to be grouping them into 5 tiers from low to high, and the first tier is going to be heroes I would be perfectly fine if I never played again. And the first one is going to be Valkyrie. Sadly, she continues to be my least favorite hero. I just don't like how she's designed, and the bitterness of my disappointment seems to never leave me. Followed by War Machine. I just don't enjoy him. There's really nothing about him I like, to be honest. The theme just doesn't really do anything for me, and I want to be doing something other than just constantly damaging the villain and not much else. Just not my kind of gameplay. And that's it. That's this whole tier. Just those two. I could live without those two. All right, the next tier is heroes I don't really like all that much, but I haven't quite given up on yet. And the first one there is going to be Groot. I really don't like him very much, and I meant what I said about his design being split in half, and I do not enjoy that. But I know there are ways to have fun with him, and I'm not quite done exploring those yet. The next would be Gamora. People like her so much, I feel like I've got to be missing something. So I'm not quite ready to chuck her out the airlock just yet. I'll play her again here and there. Followed, I think, by Iron Man. I think next time I get a chance to play multiplayer, I really need to make sure I play Iron Man, because I think I would like him more. I just got to play him in the right setting. I just don't think I want to play him solo. Next up would be Spectrum. Similar to Gamora, there's people who just love her, and I know I'm just missing something. I'm fully willing to admit that one is largely probably just me. And then I think that is it for this tier. So the middle tier is very much that, the sticky middle, where there are a lot of heroes that I like fine, but in a group of 41, there are going to be plenty that really just sort of jumble into the middle without too much distinction. But I don't have any negative feelings towards any of these heroes. I do at least enjoy them some. I think the lowest one here for me is probably going to be Hawkeye. And that I don't even want that to be negative. I think he's fine, but when I look at these, he's the one that excites me the least, I think. Followed probably by Hulk. And there's definitely a bit of a disappointment factor here, which, I'm not saying anything nobody else has already said, but I certainly do wish he were more tightly designed. And for me, it's less about just how clunky he is and more about the entire direction they went with the character. I really wish he was more of a flipping hero and made more use of Bruce Banner rather than just being so focused on straightforward smashing. Like, there's a lot more to Hulk than just that, and I think that was largely overlooked. So that's where my disappointment in Hulk comes from, but I have fun when I play him. He's fine. I think after that comes Phoenix. I want to like her more, but I just don't feel like there's anything there that's really grabbing me too much, but she's okay to play. I don't mind her. I feel like I was probably a little bit harder on her when we were talking about her earlier than I really meant to be. She's not bad, but out of all the X-Men, she's definitely the one I enjoy the least. Followed probably by She-Hulk, and I do like She-Hulk. Again, I wish she were a little bit better, kind of like the Hulk. I just wish some of her cards were a little bit stronger, but I really enjoy her gameplay. She's not bad to me at all. I can tell you I'm not showing anybody that I'm really excited about yet, so we're going to be in this tier for a little bit longer. So that makes the next one Captain America. I like him fine, and I definitely want to play him again soon, but there's nothing about him that really gets me excited to play him. Next up would be Colossus. He is largely probably a victim of just haven't played him enough. I do like what I've seen, but he does feel like he's going to fall into the middle for me. It's not quite my playstyle. In some ways it is. He's a flipping hero, which I like, but he's a flipping hero that's bad at thwarting, and I'm a solo player, so that's another one that I should probably try to play in multiplayer more. And that reveals Vision, who would definitely be the next one out of this group. I like him fine. He's okay. Might play him once in a while. Things are getting a little bit tighter here. I'm going to say Spider-Man followed by... Well, I was going to say Ghost Spider, but now do I like Ghost Spider better than Black Widow? I don't think I do. I want to, and she is definitely on my list of heroes to give more chances to, and it's just another one of those that I feel like it's just me, and she is most likely worthy of the high ranking that most people give her. Maybe I've just been a victim of bad luck with her. I haven't had too many fun games, but I see the potential. Bringing us to Black Widow, who I do enjoy when I play her, though it has been a very long time. And now we're at a point where I have to decide if Wolverine is someone that is at least at the top of the sticky middle, or is he at the bottom of heroes I really, really do like? Nah, he doesn't quite make it into that tier for me. And it's just the style. It's just not for me, that very speedy play. I think he's really cool. I like the way he's designed, and he's a lot of fun to play, but you only get to play him for like 3 turns and then the game's over. And yeah, I'm looking at 4 heroes I really, really like. So that is going to do it for this tier. So now the second highest tier would be heroes that I actively want to be spending my time playing. These are the heroes that I'm most likely to choose when I sit down to play a game, and I'm not like trying to talk myself into it or convincing myself they deserve a second chance. These are heroes I'm always very happy to play. Hopefully I come up with a more pithy title for this tier to appear on the screen. And I think out of this group, the first one would be Doctor Strange. I feel like I'm a defender of Doctor Strange online often when the discussion comes up. I feel like I'm one of the few people that are kind of standing up for him, but I don't like love him, but I do really enjoy him, and I'm always happy to play him. And it's amazing to me that Black Panther has made it into this tier based on how I ranked him last time. But here he is, and now I'm even wondering if he's next or if there's anybody else that might go before him. And yeah, I think so. I think Thor would be next. I have a good time playing Thor. I haven't played him in a while. And again, as a solo player, he's not the best solo hero, so that's probably part of the reason why I don't play him all the time, but I definitely have fun when I do. And now this is where Black Panther comes in. He rose quite a bit, but he doesn't go any higher than this, but definitely excited to play him more ever since I played him not too long ago, and looking to do more with him. I think after this would be Adam Warlock. I love his gameplay. I love Mystic Senses and the cape and just all that you get to do just by triggering Battle Mage. Does so many fun things. He is really, really cool. Next up is going to be Star-Lord, I think. Really, really fun when I'm in the mood to lose a game. Followed by Cyclops. He's a little too new. You know, I'm eyeing some of my classic favorites here. He's a little too new for me to put above them. Though I say that, there's going to be some pretty new ones coming up still, but I haven't played Cyclops quite enough to know if I like him better than some of these old favorites, but I do like him a lot. From here, this one surprises me, but I'm actually going to put Quicksilver next. It was between him and Captain Marvel, and I feel like I ranked Captain Marvel too low last time, and I haven't played her nearly as often as I should for how much she does exactly the kind of gameplay I like. She draws a lot of cards. She's got a lot of resources. I should be talking about Quicksilver right now. Quicksilver is always really fun to play, and he definitely gets to fall into this category of heroes that I'm always happy to pull out. Very straightforward, simple gameplay, but I always enjoy it. Now we can talk about Captain Marvel, who, like I was saying, I ranked way too low, I think, last time, and is someone that I'm pretty excited to play again. I'm really wanting to get her out more. She just does a lot of what I enjoy in this game, and I should be experiencing that more often than I do. So now I have to ask myself a difficult question. How many heroes get to be in my absolute top tier? Because it looks to me like each one of these stacks still has a fair few in them, but every one of these heroes just makes me so happy looking at them. But I didn't want to have 6 tiers because there wasn't enough room in the bottom for the heroes I genuinely don't like, and I didn't want to have 2 or 3 tiers of heroes that were just okay. So what we're going to do is Ant-Man is going to sneak into the top of this, just miss the next tier. It's like right there. But I feel like at least one less needs to go into that next group. So Ant-Man is the top of heroes that I am so happy to play, even though I talked a lot about how I never play him. But come on, who's got the time to play all of these heroes all the time? But yeah, he's so great. He's so great. And maybe he does deserve to be in the next tier, but we're gonna let him be the king of this tier. Which brings us to the top of the top, my absolute favorite heroes, the heroes that when I think about this game, every single one of these heroes just brings me so much joy and happiness. And I always think of these heroes when I think of who are my favorite heroes in this game. I'm already looking at ones I know I would include in that, and there's certainly ones underneath them as well. Also, I'm out of solid color playmats, so we're going with the dragon mat for the highest tier because dragons are awesome. And I'll be honest, I'm having a hard time deciding who goes next. Because I don't want to, out of these four anyway, I don't really want to say I like one much more than the other because, man, they're all so great. I guess forced to choose, we're going to go Rocket next. I do really, really love Rocket, and he definitely deserves to be in this tier, but I just like everybody a little bit that much more. But his gameplay is so great, and he's one that I truly love playing in Justice. I talked about how I don't really like Justice that much, but he's one I do indulge in that solo power of Justice when I play him, and it just is incredibly strong, and you're going to win your game, but man, it's going to be fun to play the whole time. Next up would be, I think Venom gets to go next. Absolutely awesome. Such a great solo hero, just plays so well into my style. He's like a fun Captain America to me. I think that's kind of where it is. For whatever reason, he's probably pretty similar to Captain America, but for whatever reason, I like him so much more. Next would be, all right, so this part is really, really hard. I'm really struggling here because I feel like Storm is probably going further than she should, but at the same time, I just don't feel ready to pick her yet. I think I do like Storm better than Nova or Nebula, who is kind of who I'm eyeing next. And it's gotta be Nebula. Ah, so close to Nova. They're both so great. I have so much fun when I play Nebula. Her and Nova, they're very similar. I'll go ahead and put him here too because they're so similar to me and how I feel about them. They're just fun. They always bring so much fun to me when I'm playing the game. And it's weird because you're playing the whole game for fun and every hero is fun, but I guess fun comes in different flavors, and there's something about them that it seems more fun than, I don't know, the power fun, the control fun. I don't even know how to define the other levels of fun, but those two are just, there's just something special about them, and that's the word that comes to mind. All right, this isn't getting any easier. Ms. Marvel, I guess. Whew, this is tough. Yeah, she's another one that I just think of pure joy when I am able to discuss her online. The times I do get to play her, so much fun. Such a different way to play the game. Really super plays into my play style. The alter ego stuff. There's the really weird timing things that you can do with her. That's my kind of gameplay right there. All right, I think this is as far as Storm goes. It was a really good run for somebody so new. But I have always had so much fun playing her. I just think she is awesome. And being the newest hero and being so well designed, in my opinion, it just makes me so excited for the future. I feel like they just keep getting better. I absolutely loved the last wave. You'll notice that they're pretty much all here. The Sinister Motives wave. And then the mutants were kind of up and down for me. Certainly Phoenix and Colossus were decently low. But you know, Storm, Wolverine, Cyclops, and Shadowcat were all really well liked by me. So I do think just the new designs continue to be really strong and very, very excited for the future. Absolutely. I just love that weather control. It's so much fun switching that card every turn for free compared to how some other effects like that in the game work. It just feels like freedom, which makes up for how expensive her cards are, I guess. All right. We're getting down to it. Spider-Woman. I don't know why I don't rank her higher. I really don't, because I love her to pieces. She's so awesome, but there's just something about these that I like better. But everything I said about her earlier just continues to be true. She is so good in really every way a hero can be good in this game. which leaves me with, it's between Scarlet Witch and Shadowcat at this point, I think. Oh, maybe SPDR. Maybe SPDR could fall into this. Ironheart, I'll tell you now, she's safe where she is. But these other three are it's so close. It's so hard to pick. All right, I think it's Shadowcat. Again, she's newer. I haven't played her quite as much, so it feels like it would be a betrayal of some of these heroes. Not that these are much older, but like I feel like I couldn't quite put her over Scarlet Witch yet because I've just loved Scarlet Witch for so long. But she is so awesome, and another one that's just so incredibly well designed and just so kooky in the way she works, which is so fun for me, finding those ins and outs and all the little tricks you can do with her. When we started this, I would have said that SPDR was going to rank higher than Scarlet Witch, but now that I'm looking at it, I don't think she does. I think she comes in just under, because I really do like her a lot. But the last time I played Scarlet Witch in the 12 plays, I had such a blast, and I lost that game against Spiral, but it just really reminded me of my love of Scarlet Witch. Now, that being said, she doesn't rank quite above anybody else we're looking at here, but she epitomizes that risk-reward gameplay for me. I enjoy the randomness of her so much, but it's not randomness that's going to just go absolutely crazy. It's randomness with power, so no matter what, it's awesome. It's just fun to see which kind of awesome you're getting. Last time we did this, Miles ranked higher than Wasp, but after doing that Wasp series, I kind of want to put her over Miles. And I think I'm going to. I love Spider-Man. He is so awesome. And one thing I didn't mention during the overview was the fact that he's a champion and a web warrior, which speaks so much to my love of deck building. He just gives you so many options. He's got so many good cards. He's so good, but he doesn't quite crack the top 4, I guess. And I'll tell you, these 4 are actually pretty easy for me. I feel confident that these are absolutely my 4 favorite heroes. And I can tell you that Wasp is next. As awesome as she is, I can't say I like her more than these other 3, but playing that series really just reaffirmed everything I love about her. And I'm going to put Ironheart next. There was a time when I questioned whether I liked her or another one more, but 3rd place is really good for her. What an unbelievably cool hero. So fun to level up those suits. So really the question just comes down to, even though I haven't played Drax in months and months and months, and he is retired, does he get to continue to be my favorite hero? Well, I say yes. I say yes, he does. Now, that being said, Spider-Ham, absolutely my favorite hero that I am currently allowed to play. So unbelievably awesome. Getting those toon counters, just the power, the freedom that gives you to do whatever you want on his turn. Being able to draw the cards with a Petulant Pig, prevent all the damage with the cartoon physics when the villain attacks you. Dealing the 6 damage and confusing, and then just getting to heal and start the whole process again. Just awesome. So awesome. So Drax still gets to be number 1. He's still my favorite. I still think of him most highly of any hero. And honestly, I don't even know how close it is. Like, I love Spider-Ham a lot. But there has always been something so special about the way Drax plays that I have just appreciated from the day he came out. Always had such a blast with him. I've played him so many more times than every other hero in this game, which is why I retired him. So I would be forced to play other heroes more often. And I'd say that has worked. I certainly have gotten a lot more gameplays in. Now, I talked a lot about there's still tons of heroes I haven't played as much as I should have, but I'll tell you, I got more in than I would have with the ones I played, because I still probably just would have been playing Drax all the time. What a cool hero he is. He defies everything I love about this game. He's pretty much pigeonholed into one aspect. You can play him in the others, but protection just fits him so well. So that limits his deck building. Doesn't want to go to alter ego. Only wants to attack the villain. It just defies all logic and reason. But it is what it is. Still my favorite. So just to do a quick recap. bottom tier of heroes I'm happy to never play again, Valkyrie and War Machine. Heroes I haven't quite given up on, Groot, Gamora, Iron Man, and Spectrum. Heroes I like fine, Hawkeye, Hulk, Phoenix, She-Hulk, Captain America, Colossus, Vision, Spider-Man, Ghost Spider, Black Widow, and just missing the next tier, Wolverine. Heroes I like quite a bit, Doctor Strange, Thor, Black Panther, Adam Warlock, Star-Lord, Cyclops, Quicksilver, Captain Marvel, and Ant-Man. And my absolute favorites, which is actually the largest stack, which I said at the beginning, there were a lot of heroes I truly love, and I meant it. Rocket Raccoon, Venom, Nebula, Nova, Ms. Marvel, Storm, Spider-Woman, Shadowcat, SPDR, Scarlet Witch, Spider-Man, Wasp, Ironheart, Spider-Ham, and Drax. What an amazing collection. If these were all the heroes we had in the game, I think I would still be a very, very, very happy player. So thank you so very much for joining me. I really appreciate your time. I know this was a bit longer. I tried to get through the aspect part as quickly as I could, but 41 heroes does take a long time to talk about. I'd love to hear in the comments from you who your favorite heroes are, where you thought I was way off base, or where maybe we happen to agree on a thing or two. If you did enjoy this, I ask if you wouldn't mind leaving a like, and feel free to subscribe to the channel. I've got a ton of Marvel Champions content coming, including a big announcement in just a few days from when this video is being posted. So I hope you'll keep an eye out for that. I'm going to be entering a very, very big series that I have been kind of obsessing about for the last few months. I'm really, really dying to get started. But I kind of needed to do this first, and you'll see why when you hear the announcement. So I hope to see you there, and I look forward to seeing you next time we get up in game. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.